great good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful Monday, December 15, if you could believe it. Year of our Lord 2025. My Picardo Jewelers watch tells me it is 9:09 and change. Broadcasting today from the United States of America. I can prove it because our president actually works to help the American people. It's also the place for the brave. Like veterans we salute today, thanks to John Basiliga, men we've lost this year, but honor as they deserve. Like Joseph Grega, Scranton, John Stope, Hilldale section of Plains Township, Raymond Witzak, Wilkes-Barre, John Mierecki, Scranton, William Kelchner, Berwick, Joseph Perillo, Wilkes-Barre, and E. Rube Ryder, Glenrock, Wyoming. The United States of America, founded with a certain knowledge and understanding by our amazing, incredible, irreplaceable founding fathers. That government is not, shall not be, cannot be our parent, our guide, our salvation, our direction. Not any of these things, but is nothing more than a necessary evil we require to organize and protect society. The United States of America, the country where for the first time in human history, freedom was declared to be an unalienable right granted to each individual by God. It was not something that could be parceled out to groups. It was not something that could be controlled by government or government officials, because our great American Constitution ensures and codifies freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, economic freedom, and freedom of the press. Well, yeah, they lie a lot, and they're all left-wingers. I get it, but we know better, and they're free to do it. Now, armed with these freedoms, and only because they had them, a ragtag bunch of immigrants, rejects, and their progeny created the richest, most powerful, most culturally diverse and accepting nation ever to grace our planet Earth. America, the only place specifically invented and designed so that every American can live their life in the manner they choose, unlimited by their background, upbringing, race, color, or creed, unhindered by the government or those who would use government to control others for their own comfort, benefit, or power. Well, this Bob Cordaro show, it'll always be convincingly conservative, lovingly logical, proudly and passionately patriotic, and reliably right. And so, with that essential preamble dispensed with, we can gavel to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that we will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you for the balance of this morning, because we're committed to common sense, and then it just happens. So here we are. A crazy weekend, news-wise. It's quite astonishing. They had that attack at Brown University. Man. Then we heard about Rob Reiner being murdered in his home, he and his wife. The implication, although they haven't stated it, the implication is that it was his son, who's had some mental health and drug issues, stabbed to death. We had these lunatics, Islamists in Australia attacking Jews celebrating Hanukkah. Odd to say immediately after mentioning that story, but happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends. Started last night. Crazy. There is true evil in the world. Never never tell yourself that there isn't. And the left always tells us there isn't. And then this happens. Now, are they going to talk about gun control for Rob Reiner's murder? I mean, the sickos will find a way. And actually, if someone at Brown had a weapon, they could have fended this animal off. Now, I've heard the reports, but I didn't get to confirm it, that in point of fact, the person who saved us from more carnage in Australia, Bondi Beach, was a Muslim. So I want you to notice, and I try to be careful, I am critical of Islamists, not Muslims. We will find out. We'll find out. Hey, on a local note, I'm sure they're nice people, but the Greenridge Neighborhood Association put up a hometown hero sign for Joe Biden, who was never in the military. He had multiple deferments. And now he's up on a utility pole as though he served our country. And I would tell you, he served himself exceptionally well, himself and his family. He didn't serve this country. And it's not just my absolute hatred of Biden and all he stood for and all the damage he did. I wouldn't want one for Trump either. They weren't in the military. What is the hometown hero banner for? And I don't care if it was peacetime service. I don't care when the service was. I don't care if they were a cook. They served this country. And I guess we should bring out what they have posted outside of the Bloomsburg American Legion when we talk about having a disgusting disgrace like Joe Biden on one of those beautiful hometown heroes banners. What does the Bloomsburg American Legion say? Well, what is a veteran? And I add words. A veteran, whether active duty, discharged, retired, or reserve, peacetime or wartime, is someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount of up to and including his or her life. That is honor. When did Joe Biden ever do that? And by the way, Greenridge Neighborhood Association, what did he do for this area? I really want to know. What did he do? Nobody can tell me what he did for Scranton. Yeah, the silence on that question continues. And it was the same mentality. You read it in the newspaper, okay? It was the headline was written in the Citizen's Voice. Well, maybe Citizen's Voice or Tribune. It doesn't matter. Scranton Times Tribune. They're all just disgustingly awful newspapers. It says, public servant seeks congressional nod. Now, our executive producer, Mr. Paul, turned me on to this outrage, which continues. Like this, just like Joe Biden, a public servant. He got paid for everything he did. And then he stole for himself and his family and used his influence to get them jobs, contracts in the tens of millions of dollars. He got all the glory and the accolades. I know I'll mangle it because I don't have it in front of me, but there's a Bible verse saying, don't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing when you're giving alms, helping the poor. Do it silently. Don't tell anyone. Well, Joe Biden got all the conceivable accolades you could get. He got paid every inch of the way. And by the way, so did this person who's running against Dan Muser. Oh, Lord. And I guaranteed a left-winger. She's going to run against Dan Muser. Well, let's hope her political career ends up on the ash heap of history, local history, just as the previous ones. Yeah, somebody says, Bob, next time you'll see a hometown hero banner for Paige Cognetti. It's unbelievable. And by the way, I had veterans of all stripes, some of whom even told me, well, I voted for Biden. I'm not proud of it, but I voted for him. That old line, because I'm a Democrat. And he does not deserve to have a hometown hero banner. He's not a hometown hero. He's not and never was a member of the military. Crime, speaking of Paige Cognetti, continues in Scranton. Lee reminding me that a 16-year-old was shot on Friday in West Scranton. Scary, scary stuff. Awful, awful stuff. And crime, by the way, crime has hiked up since the left-wing lunatic has been the mayor. And I've heard tell of her handcuffing the cops because, remember, criminals, in her mind, are oppressed and reacting to oppression. They're victims. That's her line. My word. Sorry about the people killed in Australia, the Reiners out in Los Angeles, the young people at Brown University. Sad, sad, sad. And, of course, this young 16-year-old girl. 16-year-old girl killed in Scranton. All right, we'll take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. Let's hear from our great sponsors. Then a little history, a little music, and then you at 570-883-0098 to call or to text. We'll be back. play this in memory of my friend John Bamford. Passed away over the weekend. Old buddy. That was Alexandra Burke, Hallelujah, 2008 on the X Factor. And again, for my friend John Bamford, who we lost over the weekend. He deserved to have the whole thing played. We'll be right back. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, dutifully presented by our friend John Basiliga and his great Basiliga Hospitality Group. And today we feature Eastern Roofing Systems, the premier roofing contractor for industrial, commercial, institutional across the Eastern Seaboard. Headquartered in Jessup, they bring all of that expertise, all that buying power to do the roof on your small building or your home. Eastern Roofing Systems. Joseph Grega. He was from Opelika, Alabama. Born in Scranton. He died in Columbus, Georgia, following a head injury, September 4th. He's survived by his wife, Millie, brothers, daughters, granddaughters, a grandson, and sons. 1965 Dunmore High School graduate. He studied English at the University of Scranton before enlisting in the United States Air Force. He served as a captain, flying B-52s in the Vietnam War. He received the Silver Star and the Purple Heart after his aircraft was struck by a surface-to-air missile near Hanoi, December 18, 1972. Despite injuries aboard, he completed the mission and landed safely in friendly territory. Joe loved books, collecting more than 6,000. He was also known for piloting his car to the alarm of passengers. A Mahavana Buddhist, he devoted his life to service, compassion, and helping others. His curiosity, kindness, and generosity leave a lasting legacy. Joseph Grega. John Stopay, he was 86 when we lost him. Thanksgiving Day this past November 27th. Born and raised in the Hilldale section of Plains Township. He moved to Mechanicsburg 5 years ago to be closer to his children. He graduated from Plains High School in 1956, attended King's College as well. He then enlisted in the Army and spent 3 years in Germany working radio communications. He returned home, and in October of 63, he met Marianne Mariucci. They became best friends, and she was his love for the rest of his life. They married in 1965 and spent 60 wonderful years together. In 1968, they welcomed their only child, a daughter, Lynn D. He worked for Sardoni Construction, then Metropolitan Wire. He made candy on the side with his wife, Marianne, and his parents, starting John L. Stopay Candies in 1946. This turned into a full-time career for all of them until they sold the business in 2012. John was a member of St. Francis Cabrini Church, Wyoming, former member of the Plains Lions Club and the Hilldale Sportsman Club. He's survived by his loving wife, Mary Ann, his daughter, Lindy Bender, his son-in-law, and his granddaughter, John L. Stopay. Our great veterans this hour brought to you by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Allie Gallo. Today, cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon snow showers, 24 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy and cold, low 12. Tuesday, sunny skies, high 30. Wednesday, cloudy and milder, 42 degrees. Navy guy says, Bob, it's actually a sad song about brokenness and lost love. Now, I guess he's referring to Hallelujah, Bulldog? Is that what you think? I don't know. Well, Navy guy, clarify this now. Somebody else, Bob, the Australian Prime Minister has guaranteed the safety of Jewish people there, but I believe him as much as I do Bill and Hillary Clinton. Well, I guess that's not much, huh? Cabinet guy, between Paige Cognetti and Shapiro, crime and gun violence is down. Well, no, it's not. And it never is. It never is. Now, someone texted in, as an FYI that the 16-year-old may have been a self-inflicted. I haven't followed up on that, but thanks for mentioning it. Would be a big difference, wouldn't it? Yeah, so I don't know. Like, we're hearing, and you've got to believe what the Islamists are saying. They're saying that they're going to conquer all other religions. They're saying they're going to take the country over. And this is from leaders. This is from imams. This is from all kinds of people. Crazy. My friend T. Bell says, John Bamford was my father's good friend at St. Paul's, 1960. And that John Bell had sold him his home on Penn Avenue. Yeah, John Bamford. Thanks, T. Bell, for checking in on that. Hey, Mother Teresa for today. Let's get to it because I sometimes will forget. And also, as we continue to think about our friend John. Mother Teresa for December 15th. She said, St. Joseph knew when Mary became pregnant that this was not his child. He saw that she was pregnant, but didn't know how. If he had gone to the high priest, she would have been stoned to death. Do you see the charity and thoughtfulness of St. Joseph? If we have the same kind of charity and thoughtfulness toward each other, our families will become the abode of the Most High. How beautiful our families will become where there is total thoughtfulness for others. Mother Teresa, St. Teresa for today. And always poignant, and thank you, Mary Regina. Mr. Paul texts in, he goes, that disgraceful Biden hometown hero banner must come down. It's a dishonor to all the others. Yep. It's so disappointing. Why would they think this? And I will say this because I am certain it's true. Trump did not serve in the military. And if someone tried to put up a hometown hero banner for Trump, they would go out of their minds. Yet this disgraceful scumbag gets a hometown hero banner? Wow. Really dumb, Green Ridge Neighborhood Association. Really dumb. We'll take a break and be back. Johnny Cash. Folsom Prison Blues. They released it this day, 1955, Murph told me. Hey, I hope you had a good weekend. I had a great one. Friday night, we went to see, well, first we went to Atera, 519, with the Petnatos and the Palucci's. Great meal, great. Everything was just, it was fabulous. I mean, it was fabulous. I love that atmosphere. Sir, the whole package. The whole package was awesome. And then we went downstairs to Sergei's for the first half of it, for this show. My old friend Chris DiMatteo did Sinatra. And Kenny McGraw and the Brass and Ivory Band featuring Paul Rostock, who happened to have been Frank Sinatra Jr.'s bass player for 4 decades and was close to the whole family. Well, they put on a show. It was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And not to be outdone, they brought this beautiful young girl by the name of Nicole Rasmus up. She's a local girl. And she did Patsy Cline and Connie Francis. And this music does predate me, much of it, most of it. But it was just incredible because it's timeless. The music was great. The whole package. What a blast. That was Friday night. And Saturday night, our friend Jeff Saleo was in town. And so we got to go to Regnacci's. So we got to hang around with Murph behind the bar. Mr. Paul was there. And of course, Jeff. It was just total fun. My friend Joe Tomko was there. It was just really fun. So good night Saturday night. And then and during this whole process, my son Bobby came home. He's moved back to the east from Denver. So he's gonna live with Cutie and I for a little while he's looking. And he brought his Old English Bulldog. And, of course, I have my Bull Mastiff, and they had quite a dynamic. And that's what it was the whole weekend. Fun. Bloomberg Money Minute, because my Bacardo's watch says 9:50. Robert Michael, Christmas lights on Church Street, and that's Church Street in Jessup. He was is a Jessup native. Bob Cordaro, back with you on the program here, the December 15th edition. Somebody texted, Bob, watch The First Christmas, narrated by Kevin Costner. It can be found on Hulu. Very good. An historical account of the birth of Christ. LTS. LTS back at you. Thank you for that info. Another, Bob, the banner is so Mayor Many Faces can get him here again, meaning Joe Biden, and campaign for against Rob, and he will donate to her campaign run. Unreal. We have signs and streets after this horrible person, and we got nothing out of it. LTS. I know it. Nothing. Nothing. Another text in, hello, Bob. All Muslims and non-Bible believing people need to leave our country. Until 1967, most Muslim nations were not allowed into the USA because you never let someone who's diametrically opposed to the Bible and is what our nation was formed from. It's idiocy, and it's being done by elites to destroy the country. Jim in Bloomsburg. I can't disagree with you. But you always have to point out, however, that the vast majority of Muslims, although they ain't speaking up, are not part of this Islamist cabal that wants to take over the country. It just has to be pointed out each time. By the way, my man Nikki D sends in the best quote ever. It said, if violent crime is to be curbed, it is only the intended victim who can do it. The felon does not fear the police, and he fears neither judge nor jury. Therefore, what he must be taught to fear is his victim. It goes right to foreign policy. They must be taught to fear the United States. All right, let's sneak Bill from Pittston in. Bill, how are you, friend?
Doing good. I'll tell you, I want to thank you for having those authors with Matt Berkvik. That was just fascinating.
And I was so happy you came. It was good to be with you.
Well, it was a blast, and I'm looking forward to the next one you pull off, because that was fascinating, the conversation and just everything they brought into it. So thank you for doing that.
Our girl, Tori, here at the station, she works for all the stations, but she put it together, so it was nice, yeah.
Well, the reason I called, I guess you know, Rob Reiner is allegedly murdered by his son.
Yeah.
I saw an interview, or heard an interview, I think it might have been Stern in 2016. They're talking about releasing a film, Reiner and his son, Nick. He had been in and out of rehab since he was 15 years old and had troubles before that, and was just more than a handful. But he decided to get his act together, and he and another guy wrote a screenplay and showed it to Rob Reiner, and then, of course, they made the film Being Charlie, I think it was called. It bombed at the box office. But it was about him, Nick, and his relationship to Rob.
Yeah.
And it like I said, it bombed. But if you look at pictures, like, you know, a picture, you know, can give you 1,000 words. I'll tell you, this picture speaks volumes, because they got their arms around each other, but it's at a distance. It looks like it's painful for them to touch one another. So I really wasn't surprised to learn that this poor kid that, you know, eaten up with drugs, that's warping his mind, may have killed his father and mother.
Well, you know, you think about it, it is such an incredible tragedy. You're watching yourself and your wife be stabbed by your own son. You know, the last minutes, that I would not wish that on anyone. The last minutes of their lives had to be complete horror. And your kid is trying to kill you. It could not be much worse than that. Not a much worse way to go. Man.
Yeah. And you know, the sad thing, well, Rob Reiner didn't shrink away from saying controversial stuff. I believe when Rush Limbaugh died, he said something, "I'm glad that big fat pig is dead," something along those lines. Really
he was an ass. There's no doubt about it. But, you know, nobody, wow.
Nobody deserves it.
Your own kid. Hey, we got to
Yeah,
go, my
horrific.
man, because I always got to look at my Bacardo's watch. But
Yeah, I saw that on your wrist. I was going to list it the other day.
yeah, but thank you for coming, and always a pleasure to talk with you.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks.
All right, man. We'll take a break because my Bacardo Jewelers watch says 10:01. We'll be back after the news, and you know what? It's Monday, so it's Monday Musings. Great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 10:10 a.m. here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Monday, December 15, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our friend John Basiliga and his great Eastern roofing systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we've lost this year, but salute today thanks to John, like John Stope, Plains Township, Joseph Grega, Opelika, Alabama, but he was from Scranton, John Miarecki, Scranton, Raymond Whitsack, Wilkes-Barre, E. Rube Ryder, Glen Rock, Wyoming, William Kelchner, Berwick. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. Well, it's Monday, and Saturday was the Army-Navy game. Play it, Bulldog. Well, this date in 1989, our guy, John Perillo's theme song for Monday Musings, his theme song, Billy Joel, #1 album with Stormfront. Murph picked We Didn't Start the Fire. And, of course, we play it every week. We love it. But it was this date, 1959, that he was #1. And here he is, without further ado, our man John Perillo. John, welcome back, as always, my friend.
Thank you. That was a great lead-in. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, Trump's great. I'm telling, and when he's in his element with the military, they love him. He loves them. It was fabulous. And
Yeah,
by the way, one of the few college games that we had the pleasure of seeing. The rest are pros.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because I know that the game doesn't matter, in the playoff scheme of things, but it's still a great college game. I mean, there's no NIL money. Maybe two players on both sides of those teams in 8 years will ever go pro. They all go to class. And my son's Army, by the way, he commented, "Can you imagine if our politicians fought that hard and then had that much respect with for the other side when the vote was over?" I was like, "No, I can't."
No.
Right, but then. And other teams will talk about brotherhood, and I get it, but how do you have brotherhood when 20 or 30 kids are switching sides, because somebody's paying them a little bit more? At some point you're rooting for bits of cloth. You're not really rooting for teams. I don't mean to put anybody down, but, I still love the Army-Navy game. I think it's a great game, and, and the game means more to me now than it did back then. It was always too close to finals. And I was not one of the brightest students at the Naval Academy.
You don't even think about that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Oh, I was way more concerned with grades than I was with the game. But somebody asked me one time to explain the game, and I'm going to explain it to the game this way, right? The football players had some privileges, like they had team tables, and they got first crack at scheduling classes, so they could have Friday afternoons off, so they could travel, right? But about 6 years after I graduated from the Naval Academy, I was assigned to an anti-submarine experimental aviation squadron, right? And we were flying to map out an exercise in a P-3 Orion. It's an anti-submarine plane. And there was a Soviet sub, it was Soviets back then, and it broached the surface of the ocean. Poor seamanship. He's not supposed to broach, but he does. And the pilot was a Navy football player, a lineman from my 29th company at the Navy, who graduated the year before me, and a huge guy, and he's the pilot of this plane. And he negative G dives this plane right to the deck. I mean, we were weightless in the back of this plane, and we're dropping sonobuoys, which are these active pingers to find the sub. And that's football at a service academy, right? So, yes, these athletes play football, but then they're in the military. And those kids out there, both sides, if you watch the game, you really got to watch that game every year because they played their butts off. I mean, there was a lot of really hard hitting, not an ounce of quit on either team. And, as citizens, you should be proud of them because they're all on your side and because they represent their services, not just the school, all the soldiers and sailors out there. So, yeah, great game. Thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Well, and I'll tell you, I think probably the best education you could conceivably have would be at one of our military academies playing football. Because football is its own education. You in football, unlike the other sports, you do most of what you do to train for football is not playing football.
Right.
It's something else, which is the way life is. And then you throw the academy training itself on top of it, and the discipline which goes with, hey, after this little bit of stardom, I go into the service. Yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah,
being a varsity athlete there was interesting because I sailed, and believe it or not, Navy has a great sailing team.
Yeah,
but I would get done with sailing.
I would think they should.
Yeah, they were pretty good at that. I mean, like world class guys were there, Olympic athletes and stuff. Yeah. I'd come off the water. And there would be ice on the water in the Severn. We'd still be practicing. I'd come off the water hypothermic at 5 o'clock at night, just stand in the shower until I got my body temperature up. And then you had to study, and you had curfew and you had all these things you had to deal with. It was just, those guys and the football players, they're lifting first thing in the morning. They do strength training. And our formations are at, 7 in the morning. So they're lifting before that. Then they're going to team tables, and then they're going to class, and then they're going to practice, and then they still got to study and pass classes. I mean, because nobody gets a walk on the classes. You have to pass, or you don't graduate. Mm-hmm. And if you looked at those, like the linemen, those guys are really, really big. They won't make that weight standard that they have to drop that weight again before the next weigh-in, which is about March time frame. So all those linemen who would put on 100 pounds to play football, they have to cut that weight again. I mean, it's nuts how hard that life is for those guys. So, great game. If you haven't had a chance to be there, for your listeners, make an effort to try, or at least to watch the game, because it's just a different game. And they're never going to tangle with Ohio State. It's never going to be that type of a team, right? And that's fine. But I watched those Army players hitting on that first, when they were playing defense on that first drive. And I swear I didn't think half those guys were going to stand up. I mean, they were hitting so hard.
It was great football. I somewhat disagree with you. It was great football to watch because, you know what? The fundamentals were off the charts, which is what makes the difference. It wasn't just talent being displayed. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Great stuff. Hey, we've got to take a break. You've got another subject, this Minnesota theft of aid. I want to go into that next, but let's take a break. John Perillo, Monday Musings. We'll be back. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. This date, 1967, Murph tells us just days after its release, the Beatles album, The Magical Mystery Tour, went gold. Just remember my friend John Sanko doing this at Bishop O'Hara. It was their play that year, like a musical type thing, and John did it. And did it well, I might add. Bob Cordaro back with you on WILK. We're in the middle of Monday Musings, and that's our man John Perillo. So, John, you had some thoughts on the game, but you also had some thoughts on this Minnesota disgrace. Talk to us.
Yeah, and as listeners to the segment know, one of my constant themes is the only thing that stands between us and barbarism is Western civilization, right? And that civilization has its roots in both the Hebrew and later the Christian traditions, certainly with help from the Greeks and Romans. A couple of weeks back, I talked about the Tower of Babel story from the Torah and how it explained the separation of people into tribes that were condemned never to understand each other. And then last week, we mentioned St. Augustine's views on just wars that we still use today, even if most people don't know where they come from. And one of my big concerns is that people tend to think that the precepts of civilization that they take for granted are somehow natural.
Yeah.
That man has evolved, if you will, into a state of consciousness outside of religion, where theft is wrong, inequality of all humans is rational, or a random killing of another person is not okay. And that without Western civilization, we'll be just fine. But the concepts of Western civilization are anything but natural. There's a deliberate result of thousands of years of philosophy and religion. And we know that because we're starting to see some of those ideas fray and to get glimpses of what the world will look like when it comes apart completely. And there are no more zealot believers than the converted. So I want to introduce your listeners to a woman named Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who's a woman who was born in Somalia, was genitally mutilated by her grandmother when she was a young child there. Her family sought asylum in the Netherlands, where she eventually becomes an elected representative. She renounces Islam. She's accused of hate speech there. She's physically attacked. She becomes an atheist. And then she collaborates with a guy named Theo Van Gogh to make the film Submission, which was about the female oppression under Islam. And you may recall that Mr. Van Gogh was murdered by a gentleman named Mohammed Bougundi shortly after the release of the film. Anyway, Ms. Ali goes into hiding, fearing for her life. She eventually migrates to the U.S., both because of the death threats she's receiving and the fact that the Dutch, as well as most of Europe, no longer believe in free speech. She converts to Christianity, and she's been a vocal critic of Islam, a defender of Western civilization, and she uses her personal story as both a warning about the dangers of unchecked immigration from places that don't share Western values and a lesson about how the death of European civilization will be a disaster for the Europeans, of course, but also for all of Western civilization. So how's that for a resume? Yeah. And you can see why I find her fascinating. Anyway, she wrote an article about that mess in Minnesota, the widespread theft of aid of the Somali community there. And given her background, I thought we should probably spend a few minutes to understand what she said. And she talked about the Midwestern culture of quiet restraint and that honesty, earnestness was the word she used, that's so strong that it's almost a caricature. And you rural PA listeners out there know exactly what I'm talking about, what she's talking about. She points out that the Somali immigrants in that area have not attempted to immigrate into the society, but rather have clustered, that's her word. And the reason for that clustering is something that a sociologist named Edward Banfield called amoral familism, where people are expected to look out for their tribe, but not to work outside of that small group. If they work outside that small group, it's seen as a betrayal of the same tribe. And you certainly can see that today, where people are attempting to do better than their tribe, and they're seen as inefficiently authentic within the same tribe. And the book is called The Moral Basis of a Backward Society, if you want to check it out. It came out in the late 1950s. And of course, this guy's timing was perfect, because right after it was published, we had the 60s with this multicultural ideology, which said that we didn't need a common culture. We could all have our own separate ones, and we'd get along just fine. And society depends on common stories. I'll tell you the story that my parents, they spoke Italian only when they didn't want me to understand what they were saying, which was usually about me since I was the problem child. And my father openly rejected the hyphenated American. We were Americans, period. And that was that. Right? We may have eaten a fair amount of pasta, but we were Americans. And your families likely went to churches or drank at bars that were frequented by their fellow immigrants. That's not unusual. But they all knew that they had to live under the rules of their new country and they wanted to. But with the destruction of Western civilization, the social construct that we are seeing more and more is the idea of tribe supplanting all else. And that's precisely what Ms. Ali sees in the Somali population in Minnesota, as well as other groups from non-Western societies that have moved in large numbers to the West. And this cultural fragmentation puts stresses on systems that were never intended to support large numbers of people who don't share common values. And that's not being xenophobic or nativist. That's just stating the obvious. Now, Ms. Ali's first adopted country of Denmark is an excellent example. And I did a fair amount of work there, and they had, along with the other Nordic countries, a very generous social safety net that liberals here in the U.S. love to talk about, right? But what liberals were less likely to talk about was the cultures in those areas. Until recently, those things were very homogeneous. The Swedes were Swedish, the Norwegians were Norwegian, and they had a very strong cultural attachment to work. So yes, a person who is injured or down on their luck could get help very easily in those countries, but that very same person felt a strong social compunction to get back to work because nobody there thought that receiving government assistance was something they were entitled to. It was a necessary evil. And Minnesotans are much the same way. You know, they were hardworking, quiet, and generous to a fault. But you can look at the murder rates in places like Minneapolis or the recent missing funds, and you have to ask what's happening to that quiet, hardworking Midwestern culture. And while the theft of what appears to be billions of dollars is a scandal in itself, what strikes me as more important culturally is that nobody else seems to be saying what a disaster this is for fear of offending the wrong people. Or somehow, by talking about it, we're admitting that maybe the entire theory of multiculturalism is wrong. In Ms. Ali's words, quote, the theft was treated as an unfortunate administrative mishap rather than a civic scandal, end quote. And the fact is that there are criminal networks operating in Minnesota using the refugee population there as cover, and they're able to do so because of Banfield's amoral familism, right? Tribe above all others. And for those who haven't had the great pleasure of being sent to the garden spots that the Navy decided I needed to see, tribalism is the way that much of the third world operates. It's perfectly acceptable, admirable even, to cheat, lie, steal, as long as you do so in a way that benefits your family or larger tribe. It's our Judeo-Christian tradition, in particular the Ten Commandments, that tell us that's wrong. And the Hebrews said that we shouldn't steal or lie or murder, not just because those things are immoral, although that's certainly very, very important, but also because they're necessary for an ordered society. And those commandments are absolutely not universal. I can't emphasize that enough. And their influence here continues to lessen in our quest to destroy religion and collapse the civilization that it supports. Right? Meanwhile, Ms. Ali points out that Senator Klobuchar and Minneapolis Mayor Fay, I think the guy's name is, and all the Democratic leadership keep ignoring the real issues. They want to talk about the president's very evident ability to offend the largest number of people whenever he speaks, which is certainly a problem, but not to talk about the other crisis of gang rape, no-go zones, and other pathologies that unchecked, unassimilated immigration has brought to Europe and now to places in the U.S. So now, unlike the Netherlands and Britain, we don't yet arrest people for who say stuff with which we disagree, but effectively we're doing the same thing by refusing to talk about. And a reasonable person, Ms. Ali suggests, would look at places in Sweden, particularly Stockholm, and see the, quote, frequent shootings, bombing, arson attacks, open drug markets, and violent gang rivalries, end quote, and wonder just how open-minded we have to be before our brains fall out completely. You know, look, we can and should welcome immigration to the U.S. We won't survive demographically without it. And we can and should expect those who want to immigrate to the U.S. to understand and respect the civilization that makes it different from the places that they are rightly choosing to flee. But for us to do that, we need to understand that same civilization ourselves and what makes us different and why it's an anomaly in the history of mankind that has existed almost entirely in a state of despotism since the Hebrews wrote about the pharaohs, right? And that our freedoms are not some kind of accident of evolution. They're the deliberate result of thousands of years of thought, that the foundation of which we continue to chip away. And so, you know, then we had the events of this weekend. You know, we have mass shootings, and people are wondering what's going on. Well, I think we know what's going on. We just have to decide we want to do something about it. And, you know, to your listeners, you know, again, I appreciate your time with me on Mondays. I appreciate you celebrating my game with me, and I hope you guys have a great week.
All right, my man. Our guy, John Perillo, Monday Musings. We'll be back after this with our Veterans Tribute. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day. Brought to you by our friend John Basiliga, great friend of the veterans. Today featuring his Eastern Roofing Systems, one of the largest and indeed the premier roofing contractor for industrial, commercial, and institutional purposes throughout the eastern United States. And they bring that expertise and buying power because they're headquartered in Jessup, right here to all of us in Northeast Pennsylvania, even for your own house or small building. Eastern Roofing Systems. John Mierecki. He was 90 when we lost him November 15th. He was from Scranton. Born in that city, he graduated from Johnson College. Prior to retirement, he was employed by Weston Instruments. John was now we know them up in Archibald. They've been there forever. John was a proud veteran of the U.S. Army, surviving niece sister-in-law, and others. He was preceded in death by his sister Dolores DeMeo, his brother, a nephew, and a brother-in-law, John Mierecki. Raymond Whitsack. He died December 1st. He was 84. Born in Wilkes-Barre, he was a dedicated professional. He spent his career with the Heat and Frost Insulators Local 38 in Wilkes-Barre, contributing his skills and expertise with great pride. Graduate of Marymount High School, class of 1959. He demonstrated his commitment to his service as an Army veteran of the Vietnam War. He also served us in the United States Army Reserves. Member of the Fraternal Order of Eagles, Wilkes-Barre. He was a board member of the Wilkes-Barre City Municipal Golf Authority. He loved sports. Survived by his beloved wife of 59 years, the former Catherine Dane, their daughters, and other family members. Raymond Whitsack. Our great veterans this hour, brought to you by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast, meteorologist Ali Gallo. Today, cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon snow showers, high 24, 19 as I'm speaking to you outside the studios. Tonight, partly cloudy and cold, low 12. Tuesday, sunny skies, high 30 degrees. Wednesday, cloudy and milder, high 42. Bob Cordaro back with you on the program. And my man Mark Mayer sent me this. And it's a quote, somewhat long, but it's worth, in fact, necessary to read it. It's by author Amil Imani, an Iranian-American writer, poet, novelist, essayist, literary translator. He's talking about and has talked all over the world about the dangers of radical Islam. And he says, the sand of the East Coast near Sydney in the state of New South Wales is now an execution ground. This is not a local tragedy. It is the tactical deployment of hostile ideology designed to destabilize all non-Islamic civilization. And just hours after the Bondi Beach operation, Islamic assets in the supposedly secure interior in the U.S. initiated a secondary terror wave, confirming coordinated command across all zones. It's still not too late to realize that the foundational Islam texts mandate hostility. Compliance is non-negotiable. This is not a grievance. It is a hard-coded operational parameter. The primary danger is not in the Islamic homelands, but in the sleeper cells implanted within free societies. These cells operate under the cover of religious tolerance and multicultural protections, systems that Islam explicitly despises and is committed to dismantling. The operatives who executed the beach massacre were products of this deliberate diaspora infiltration. They leveraged the very freedoms of the Australian system to execute the attack. Again, it is wise and not too late to realize that your tolerance is their greatest force multiplier. The world is at peril due to the collapse of Western will because its political leadership keeps trying to divorce the violence from Islam. Their every statement is a betrayal of operational intelligence. This denial feeds the Islamic narrative and emboldens the next wave of operatives. The longer the world refuses to name the ideological engine of this violence, the more rapidly the Islamic creed spreads, converting the globe into its staging crowd. Islamic terrorists have carried out more than 48,611 deadly terror attacks since September 11th, 2001. Guys, and they're using, the incredible thing is they're using useful idiots on the left, including people whom they openly despise, would stone or behead, like militant gays and militant transgenders. And that combination with soft-headed liberals and left-wing lunatics and the craven demand for power by the Democrat Party could prove fatal to Western culture and the United States. We'll be back. Cat Matthews, local artist Cat Matthews, Snow on a Christmas Morning. We're playing he and Robert Michael every day because we love them, and they're great songs. Bob Cordaro back with you. Well, some reluctance to do this, but Lorraine is here. She's from Hazleton, and she has a poem and 2 theme songs. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Bob.
How are you?
Not that great. I'll tell you the truth.
What's wrong, honey?
Everything.
Sorry to hear that. Well, I admire you. You're calling to lift our spirits anyway.
Why need somebody to lift mine, too?
Okay, well, maybe lifting ours will lift yours.
I always said that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But some days it's harder. It's harder.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's get to it, my love.
Okay. It's called Cherished Christmas Memories. Mother, another year has come and gone, and Christmas time is here again. It will not be the same without you. I still recall the memories of way back then. The crackling of the snow beneath our feet when we used to walk downtown. Christmas lights would be twinkling everywhere. Faces wore a smile, never a frown. I could still feel your presence with me as we walked from store to store. And it makes me tremendously sad to know that it can be never more. You went back to the Lord right before Christmas. That day the lights grew more dim. Every year I miss you more than ever, but I guess Jesus wanted you to celebrate with him.
Well, thank you. You've got a bunch of these, right, for Mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what. All I can tell you is, and you're only a little older than I am, but I just look at it this way. When I had some what would be considered bad Christmases, I thought back to the old ones.
Yeah, I know you told me.
Yeah, and I said this will. I was fortunate to have that, and I think about that, and I sort of bathe and luxuriate in the old memories instead of worrying about the current stress.
Yeah, but don't forget, Bob, you made it through, and you knew there was hope at the end of the tunnel.
Well, not really, not necessarily.
My tunnel is getting narrower.
Well. I still tell you, look back at the great ones you had, and enjoy those memories.
Yeah, well, that's why the poems are there. You know, I still recall the memories of way back then.
Yeah, they're great.
That was just included in that poem. And do you remember? Oh no, well, there's a Christmas song. Oh, I forget who it was done by. C is for the Christ child born upon this day. H, was that Gene Autry or was that? And you don't have to go to the moon to know it's there. So, I mean, do you remember that?
No, I off the top of my head,
You probably, if you heard it, you will. But, I mean, I wrote a poem that, you know, C is for da-da-da, H is for, you know, but it pertains to my mother. So that's another Christmas one. But I based it on that song.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, good. All right. Well, look, keep them coming, my dear. Even if they're melancholy, we want to hear them. All right.
Well, I can't be happy when it's. But the thing is, I can't get out of my parking place. Anybody want to shovel me out? Come on up, Bob. You know where it is. My shovel's on the porch. I don't even have to be here. I'll be upstairs. Wait a minute. That didn't sound too good. No, I'm trying to be a little funny.
Well, you know, that's not your strong suit. Poems are.
Oh, here
You
we
know
go.
that.
You do what?
Look at the Bulldog smiling because he finds your
Oh,
corniness to be funny, and that's why he's not allowed to tell jokes on the show.
Now you wonder why I'm down because you're always picking on me.
Oh, please.
Mark Mayer, please help me.
As my old Spanish teacher Peg Burke used to say, please.
Oh yeah, well, police, yeah. Hey, that was your.
No, don't try to turn it into something.
No, wait a minute. Now you, police. Yeah, that was. I was going to say that was your theme song, but you didn't shoot him, man. So that was your, with the Folsom Blues.
Well, we've got to go, my dear, because my Bacardo Jewelers watch says it's time to go to the news. Thank you, my dear.
I know. I have to say fuzzy wuzzy, but it pertains to you too. That's really what it was all about.
Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Always a pleasure, my dear. Yeah, my Bacardo Jewelers watch tells me we're running up on 11 a.m. That's the news with Brian Hughes. We'll be back with Chet Parlavecchio, the weekend wrap-up, after that. great good morning, everyone. My Cordaro Jewelers watch tells me it's 11:06 and change here in the great Northeast. This beautiful Monday, December 15, 2025. This is the Bob Cordaro Show. I am he, and it's a big day to fight for America, defend our values, and with the help of our friend John Basiliga and his great Eastern Roofing Systems, to honor the brave who have made us and kept us free. People like veterans we lost this year, but celebrate today, thanks to John. Like Raymond Witzak, Wilkes-Barre, John Mierecki, Scranton, Joseph Grega, late of Alabama, but he was from Scranton, John Stopay, Plains, Rube Ryder, Glen Rock, Wyoming, and William Kelchner, Berwick. So with history, our great founding fathers, and the incomparable Constitution of the United States of America as our guides, let us continue today's battle. Gaveling back to order after that brief news adjournment, our meeting of the Club for Common Sense, promising you that our commitment to common sense will provide a sanctuary of sanity for all of you for the balance of this morning. Well, you know Monday's Monday Musings, and you know Monday is the Monday wrap-up with who? Our man, Chet Parlavecchio, who was not only a Penn State star, not only a Green Bay Packers star, not only a Hall of Fame coach for the state of New Jersey, an NFL coach, ran one of the greatest camps in Eastern United States, football camps, but a Dancing with the Stars veteran. And here he is, our man, Chet Parlavecchio. How are you, Chester?
Bobby. What's up, brother? How's it going today?
Everything's great. Everything's great. A little chilly out. A little chilly out. Other than
I'll
that.
tell you what, this is the kind, Bobby, that gets in your bones, man.
I
I told my wife this morning, I feel 65 today. This was I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how do those guys go out and play in this? And yet, for how many years
You
I
did
played.
it. Yeah.
I can't conceive what it was like playing in these kind of days. But hey, that's the game. We had an interesting week, buddy. Kind of an off week in college football. But there's a couple moments that obviously we got to address. The first is obviously the awarding of the Heisman Trophy. And congratulations, obviously, to Fernando Mendoza. You're talking about a historical season. Literally a storybook season in Indiana that hopefully will have a great ending. I mean, the kid led his football team to an undefeated Big Ten title. I mean, you can't say the young man isn't deserved because he is. I mean, I always had an allegiance to Diego Pavia. I just thought there wasn't a player in college football that did more for his team than he did. Mm-hmm. And like I said, and them not getting in the tournament, to me, obviously we had discussed it on earlier times, is, well, I don't want to use the word disgrace, but it's a shame. And I love the way their coach handled it by saying we're not victims here. We just didn't get enough done to get in, and we'll work on it and try to get back next year. That's called class.
That's the best attitude for sports, which is, hey, we've got to be so convincingly good that they can't deny us. We've got to be undeniable, and I did. Absolutely. I love that response.
Yeah, and I love that. And again, when you consider some other colleges, I don't want to name them, Notre Dame, when you consider some other colleges that didn't handle it as gracefully, so I kind of really respect, and it actually magnifies the response by Notre Dame, that the proper response was by the people at Vanderbilt. We're not victims. We have to do more, then we'll do more, and we'll get it done next year. But again, kudos to Mendoza. He's done an incredible job, an incredible story, the college story in the season this year as we get ready for the bowl season and we get ready for the college playoffs. But you cannot – there's two stories in college football that I thought were pretty good. 250th anniversary of our country, you sit there and you watch that Army-Navy game and you look at America's finest sitting in that stadium. America's the young men and women that are proud to be in this country, that are proud to put their lives on the line every day for what we have in this country. Our commander-in-chief standing there at midfield with them. I just think it's an iconic picture. I just think it just made you feel good. And a great football game, a bunch of guys just playing because they love to play the game of football and represent their institutions. And I don't know, it was a feel-good moment. It's a beautiful culmination of a college season by a bunch of young men and women out there that just, hey, they put their lives on the line for our country, and it has to be respected.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
All right,
and then the last thing, there's a little thing here now. We we always talk about Penn State. We talk about Pitt and the locals and Rutgers, and we'll talk, hey, listen, congratulations to Penn State. They're going to play Clemson. Nice bowl game, nice pairing. That'll be a nice football game. I don't know who Pitt declared to play yet, but there was a nicer story, and it goes under the radar sometimes. How about down in Texas, Villanova in the FCS quarterfinal, 12 seed, knocks off Tarleton on the road and advances to the semis of the SCS championship.
Nice.
Isn't that a great story?
I did not know that.
Yards of offense. Villanova, does a great job with their program year in and year out. And sometimes the lower level teams, they get, obviously shoved under the rug and they don't get the exposure everybody else does. But what a feel-good story for those guys in Philadelphia. I wish them luck the rest of the way.
Amen. Amen on that.
Yep. And now you ready to go to the NFL?
Well, it's time for the NFL, our Manchester. And
all right,
nobody could comment on all these things like you. That's why we got you.
Well, the NFL was interesting. I said, how am I going to handle this weekend? You know what this was, Bobby? This was desperation weekend. Any team that had a last gasp to get themselves in position for the playoffs took that last gasp. And in the end, if I would have told you Kansas City, Detroit, Dallas, their chances have all been greatly diminished, where Kansas City's literally out, you would have said to yourself, wow, there's a shift of the power here in the NFL. But that's what happened. I mean, you had you played the Lions and played the Rams. Rams arguably the best football team in the NFC, if not the entire league, at least the most consistent. Stafford goes crazy, throws for over 300 yards. They have over 500 yards in offense 2 consecutive weeks. They look unstoppable right now. I mean, the Lions gave it a great effort. They played hard, but they lost to a better football team. Kansas City, San Diego goes down in there, and they're becoming a scary team in the AFC, especially since there's such inconsistency in the AFC. It's hard to identify anybody. With Baltimore hemming and hawing, with Kansas City out, this is a wide open thing. As a matter of fact, you would like to think that Buffalo, if there's a chance, they're going to do it, this would be that year.
Is the Kansas City thing, is it done?
Yeah, they're out. They're out.
I haven't seen, but I'm saying, is their story done for the team with that nucleus?
Absolutely. Is that run over? Yeah, I think it is. You have a struggling offensive line that was pieced together all year. Guys are getting older. Mahomes yesterday, let's be honest, I think he tore his ACL. He could be out.
Yeah.
And again, whether he's not or not, I wouldn't play him the rest of the year if I was Kansas City anyway. There's nothing, obviously, for him to prove. And again, you take your most cherished asset and you put it on the shelf for the rest of this year. But again, yeah, I think there's a shift in power here. There's San Diego is on the rise. Houston is on the rise. These teams are getting better and better. They're young. The young quarterbacks, the Strouds, those guys, the Herberts, they're coming to their own. They're taking the throne now. They're the guys on the rise. So. Yeah, I do think there's a shift there. I think there'll be a big personnel change in the offseason. Does Kelsey come back? There's a number of guys on there that you have some questions about. But that being said, obviously, what a run they had, and you hope that Mahomes is fine. You don't want to see his career or his season end that way. But if it is, so be it. At least he's got the time to heal. On the other side, one of the big moments here yesterday was in Green Bay. Parsons, done for the year. That was a blockbuster trade. He goes into the season. He makes a difference in Green Bay, although I don't like the way they play defense. I don't like, again, them in Buffalo, to me, Bobby, have the same Achilles heel. They play that soft zone that makes me crazy. And as you watch them from 20 to 20, there's guys just wide open, and you sit there saying, Jesus, what are you doing back there? And then it caught up to Green Bay yesterday. It caught up to them. But go back to the New England thing we were talking about with Buffalo. Again, there's just a guy. Everything in that game was equal. Time of possession, yards, all read by it. You know the difference is? A guy named Josh Allen who just makes plays when he has to make plays. I mean, I can't even imagine where that team would be without him. I mean, it's just he's fun to watch because he has them believing that every time he takes the field, they have a chance. And that was a huge comeback win yesterday, down 21-0. He never flinched. It was just an awesome win. I just thought it was really something. On the home front, you got Philadelphia. Hey, listen, good defensive performance against a horrific Raider team. I mean, they held them to, 75 yards in offense. All right,
it was embarrassing. I'm a Raider fan since 1971. I'm about ready to give up the ghost, and wow.
I don't know where that team's going, brother. They rank right up there with my two doozies in New York, the Jets and the Giants. I mean, you watched those two yesterday. I mean, the Giants, the kid Jackson Dart does some nice things. I know they're all excited on the New York front here about the future with him. But, man, there's just a lot of pieces there other than him that have to get put in place. And the other side, it was sad. They threw that kid out what the heck was his name? Cook. They threw him out, the kid from Missouri. They threw him out at quarterback. The kid did a decent job. He hung in there. He played football, considering he gets no reps with the first unit. But you run into a Jacksonville team that's on the rise. They're now a 10-win team. Lawrence is in a groove. He threw for almost 400 yards. He had 5 touchdown passes. I mean, he just ran into a buzzsaw down in Jacksonville. But at least the young kid went out there and gave it a shot. But the story of the day, and let's finish it with this. I mean, you got to love my boy Rivers. I mean, is that
I was waiting for you to bring him up. I mean, that means, Chester, that means you're ready to come back.
Oh, I'm rooting. I'm sitting. Now, you know what's funny? When you look at him now, he's got a little bit of a beer belly because he probably had some Andy Boss watching the games last week sitting on the couch. So he had some Brooklyn Hobbits. He came over to the whatchamacallit. He came to the stadium saying, by the way, I'm going to play. Okay. So he's got a little pop belly going, which I love. And you know what he still is? And like I said, I had friends that knew him in North Carolina State when he was there. He's just a tough guy. He's a leader. You saw him yesterday walking up and down that sideline, getting in guys' faces. You know something? Why not him? Why not? You got a proven winner, a Hall of Famer. I mean, I'm rooting for him. Hey, he didn't do bad. 18 for 27, 120 yards. They didn't lose because of him.
Yeah.
He gave them every chance. So it was fun. Like I said, the clock's not too late on him, but we'll see what happens. All right, brother. That's the wrap up.
Love it, man. Love it. Our man, Chester Parlavecchio. Chet, we look forward to next week. You keep following it for us so we don't have to.
Take care of yourself.
All right, my man. Chet Parlavecchio, Monday wrap up. We'll be back. Aerosmith. Murph says this date, 1973, they performed their hit Dream On American Bandstand. Bob Cordaro back. And, of course, before that, Gemini 6 and 7, Rendezvous in Space. The first ever. These people who did these things were amazing. Wow. No computers, nothing. Slide rules. Great stuff. Bob Cordaro back, and so much going on. Let's get right to it. We got Max from Dixon City. Max, how are you?
Yeah, not too good. If I have to see one more slogan in the NFL about end racism and stop hate, when in fact it's their own ideology that is hating and is racist, and the killings that are going on this year alone, not only in America but Australia, Europe, sickening, and it has to be addressed. And that's why I wanted to talk to you and ask you, is it high time Trump comes out and addresses the nation, and he's going to have to say some hard things that some people are not going to want to hear in regards to their culture and community, because we see it's really one way. The girl in brown, Ella Cook, 19, I think she was, and she was targeted. Now they're saying she was vice president of the Republican club there, and it was a targeted attack. They hunted her down. The hate and the rhetoric that's being pushed on college campuses, the attack in Australia.
It's this unholy alliance between Islamist extremism and the left. Right. And as I said the hour before when I read that little litany, they've merged together with a Democrat Party that is craven for power without caring what the results are.
That is true.
It's unbelievable.
They are psychopaths, and not only are they merged, those two factions, but the criminal element in America, the inner city gangs, they have merged into this ideology. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and it stretches, beyond color lines. You have, Antifa and these far left white liberals with Black Lives Matter in conjunction. And they're creating havoc, and they're murdering innocent people. I mean, this woman in Savannah, Georgia, she was leaving church. She was walking home through a park, I believe. A random hooligan or a ghoul came out of nowhere and threw acid on her. Acid burned her face, burned her head, burned her body. She's in the hospital. She's disfigured. I don't know I can't believe the news isn't.
I didn't even see that.
Unbelievable. It's all, all over alternative media.
Max? Where was that?
Georgia, the lady, 45 years old, beautiful woman. I'm telling you, a knockout. She was walking home after church, and she was ambushed by this, I'm going to say it, black man, ambushed, acid thrown all over her. Now, if you're looking at attacks from acid, it's traditionally a Muslim attack ritual. Okay? That's basically what acid attacks are. But this is what happened, and she's recovering in the hospital. The guy hasn't been found, but there is video evidence of who the guy is. Just nobody could identify him. Same thing, all over. I mean, in Australia, you had, these radical Islamists shooting up a Jewish ceremony. You have throughout the United States, Christmas and Europe, Christmas celebrations being ransacked and attacked. It's to the point where I'm literally sick over it. I can go on and on. The lady in Macy's in Chicago that was knifed while she's changing her baby in the restroom, knifed by a woman who was just let go from a psych unit that morning. So all of these things combining together, and we are now in the news in Scranton because of what happened, the butchering that happened up there, a hate crime.
Yeah.
Right. And is it going to be prosecuted as a hate crime? Probably not. But it's all over the news, and they're saying, well, it's on video, but nobody's talking about it. CNN didn't mention it. No news channel mentioned because they don't have the narrative they want to push to the public, because it goes against this far left mindset, okay, of victimhood. But guess what? It's them doing the attacking, and it's the victims that they're portraying as the aggressors. If you, it's stunning to me.
Oh no,
it's stunning.
This is bizarro world that the left and the leadership of the Democrat Party is foisting on us. There's not even a doubt about it.
And you know what? I've always practiced the Second Amendment. Unfortunately, I have to spend a lot of my savings now in order on home defense. And, I recommend others do it too, because it's not only protecting yourself and your family, it's protecting other innocents. If you see a person throwing acid on somebody, attack them. Okay, if you're a man, you have significant fighting skill or size, attack them. Do not hesitate, because this is a war. It's time we started treating it as such. It's time people get off their butts, stop watching football, and do something productive, because we are under attack. This is not hyperbole. Research the girl at Brown. She was targeted. That was a targeted attack, assassination. They're trying to take out people.
I had not heard that yet, although the implication was that when they gave her background. So we'll.
Yeah. This is a scary,
Max,
scary portion of our lives.
Yep.
And I don't want to be that guy, but you know what? We have to stand up, because we are at war. This is a Cold War. No, it's not a Cold War. This is some kind of other thing we've never seen. This isn't a war between countries. This is a war between culture.
Yep.
And we're in it right now.
Yep. All right, my man. Thank you, Max. We got to take a break because we want to hear from our sponsors, and we want to do our final Veterans Tribute of the day, and then more at 570-883-0098. It's the Bob Cordaro Show. Our Veterans Tribute this hour and every hour, this day and every day, brought to you by our friend John Basiliga. And today featuring one of his great companies, his first and his biggest, Eastern Roofing Systems. Headquartered in Jessup, they are the premier roofing contractor for institutional, commercial, and major purposes. And they bring all that expertise home to you at your house or your small building here in Northeast Pennsylvania, because they're headquartered in Jessup. Eastern Roofing Systems. E. Rube Ryder. He was 94. He was from Glen Rock, Wyoming. Self-taught finance and banking professional. We lost him November 18 at his own home, surrounded by loved ones. He was born 1931 in Bloomsburg. Early years, he grew up in the Millville area and was a great baseball player, playing for both Millville and Jerseytown in leagues. He was a resident of the Bloomsburg area until he and his wife decided to make beautiful Wyoming their home back in 1976. He was a member of our great United States Air Force and had a long and rewarding career with Hilltop National Bank, from which he retired. Proud member and past exalted ruler of the Bloomsburg Elks Club. Member of the Bloomsburg Masonic Lodge. He was an avid hunter in both Pennsylvania and Wyoming. His family says anyone who had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know Rube loved, respected, and appreciated what a wonderful man he was. He's survived by his daughter, 2 granddaughters, 1 great-granddaughter, 3 great-grandsons, 3 great-great-grandsons, and his nephew, Barry Ryder of Millville, preceded in death by his beautiful wife of 68 years, Jeanette Rube Ryder. William Kelchner, he was just 70, longtime welder who enjoyed woodworking and tinkering. He was from Berwick. We lost him November 29th. Born in Bloomsburg, graduate of Central Columbia High School, class of 73. Soon after graduation, he joined the U.S. Navy and served us honorably from 1973 to 1977. He was stationed off the coast of Saigon, and his unit was involved with the evacuation of that country when that war ended and our involvement ended. He was a welder employed at Merck Pharmaceuticals in Riverside for 32 years. He also enjoyed bladesmithing as a hobby, and over the years, he made and repaired many knives. He also liked woodworking and carving, a trade he shared with his father. He was a jack of all trades. He'll be greatly missed by his loving wife of 49 years, Kathy Fortin Kelchner, his daughter, his son, his grandchildren, and other family members. William Kelchner. Our great veterans brought to you this hour by John Basiliga and Eastern Roofing Systems. Storm Tracker 16 forecast from meteorologist Ali Gallo. Today, cloudy skies with a chance of afternoon snow showers, 24 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy and cold, 12. Tuesday, sunny skies, 30. Wednesday, cloudy and milder. They're hoping it gets up to 42 degrees, 22 outside our studios right now. Mary, did you know? By special request, Bob Cordaro back with you on the program. Somebody texts in, good morning, Bob. Love the show. Just wondering if we need to address all these murders and mass shootings. Yeah. But see, they're symptoms, tragic symptoms of sickness. It's a sickness that owns the Democrat Party right now. And they'll grab anything, these power-hungry sick brains, they'll grab at anything, including radical Islam, including anti-Jewish attacks. They'll glom onto anything to retain power. Because their policies are all failures, abject failures. Their ideology is sick and twisted. And the Islamists are only too happy to use them. Scary, scary combination. We've never seen anything like it. And by the way, they'll be the first to be devoured. They just don't care. They just want power at all costs, including their own. Somebody texts in, Bob, you mentioned the watch you're wearing. Did you steal that too? Gotta love all you right-wing crooks on the air telling us how we should lead better lives and be better Christians. Well, see, you seem to be mentally ill. Seriously. you go get help. Please go get help. What happens with these lunatics is they get triggered. They don't listen. They hear things that trigger them into their insanity. And they cannot justify that which they support in any way, shape, or form. Because it's all on sick emotion. Not on logic, not on common sense, not on what is good for most people. And there it is. Chuck from Carbondale says we have to start dishing out harsh punishments to set an example. Well, of course we got to do that, but it's much more than that. The 4 years of damage that the left-wing lunatic ideology has just done to this country has got to be unraveled. You can't come in, like, you could talk about this Somali sickness, which is not just in Minneapolis. They come from a country that is not civilized. What do you expect them to do here? Do you expect them to be civilized when, in fact, political correctness does not allow you to even teach them what civilized society should be? They just came to a place where they could steal more money. They didn't come here to become American. They didn't come here to learn how to be civilized. They came here to take advantage of us and our wealth. And they used the Democrat Party so clearly in Minnesota to do that. Do you think a mental patient like Ilhan Omar would be elected by any normal body politic to the Congress of the United States? No, it wouldn't. She would not. Trump, I don't like the way he phrases things, but he's right over the target. People came from a garbage society. You can't equate Somalia with anything we even understand. Just take the most savage sections of the worst cities in this country, multiply it, and you've got Somalia. They don't know any better. And they're not going to behave any better, period. Yeah, you expect a good result. Oh, they're just people. No. This woman, Mark Mayer sent me a video on this. At least Breitbart is covering it. This savage acid attack in Georgia, in Savannah. It's unbelievable. How far do we want to descend before people who are voting for these lunatic Democrats will get it? How far do we have to descend? Nuts. All right. We got to take a break. Bob Cordaro, WILK. We'll be back. Band-Aid. We played this last week, but today this date 1984, they had the number one hit in the UK. Not just Christmas songs, the number one hit with Do They Know It's Christmas? And we were doing it anyway, but in defiance of the anti-Jewish hatred that is spreading and becoming more savage, we're going to finish with the Hanukkah song all during Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to our Jewish friends. It's actually hard to play it after the slaughter on Bondi Beach, Australia, but we got to keep plugging forward. Crazy stuff. Somebody asked about Trump's response to the deaths of Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, and they have arrested son Nick, who had drug and other issues. I looked at Rob Reiner. He was a goof. He was wrong about that. I mean, just a child of privilege and really had a skewed belief system. But at the same time, I liked him. He was a happy warrior in a lot of ways. And you could tell he was joyful in for many reasons, except he had severe TDS, and Trump blamed the murder on TDS, which is stupid. I mean, Donald Trump really has to stop talking once in a while. You don't have to pine on everything. Shut up, Donald Trump. Shut up, please. Why? Oh, Lord. I don't get it. Just stop. You don't have to eject yourself into every situation. Yeah, he was a total ass, Rob Reiner. He lied about you. He made things up. He was a sick brain left-wing lunatic. But he was murdered by his own child. I mean, the tragedy is beyond comprehension. So shut up, Trump. Shut up. My man Gary texts in that Pennsylvania is the largest full-time legislative body in the country, 253 lawmakers. And they only passed 65 bills. But let me take a different viewpoint of this. The less productive our legislators and our Congress is, the better off the country is. And I mean it and I believe it. So we're going to start with a Hanukkah song. Frank from Old Forge, we got about 30 seconds, my man. Fire away.
I'll hit you quick. Bob, LJP, love John Torello. He's got the courage and the facts. Now, we mentioned the name, Allie Hersey. When I was running for state rep, the Muslim Brotherhood CARE attacked me, right? And Allie Hersey called me. She wanted to have a pushback campaign right here, ground zero, Northeast Pennsylvania. And my campaign guy said no. So the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE and those guys, they'll go after even a state house race because they want complete control, Bob. So that's my story.
And guess who they're aligned with? Yep.
Yeah, all those guys. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised John Perillo didn't mention Rudyard Kipling. East is east, and west is west, and never the twain shall meet. He wrote that in the 1900s. 150 years later, it's still relevant, Bob.
It's spot on. Thank you,
Even with
Frank.
all the welfare and the snap. You got it.
Thanks, man. JD from West Pittston, fire away quickly, my man.
Good hearing from you, buddy. Good hearing from you. Listen, you're good at what you do, but the social media is a problem right now where our kids have to look at someone saying that our president raped little children. There's no proof of that. So I get what you're saying. Would you tell the president to shut up? It doesn't send the best message, but I mean, we got our Democrat friends out there. We have to give them a little bone, so we have to say things like that. Anyway, stay with your Raiders. The Kansas City Chiefs, 7 years,
You've had a great run with those Chiefs. You've got nothing to complain about. The Raiders, since Al Davis died, have been awful.
7 years, 5 Super Bowls, 3 championships, right?
Yes.
7 years, and they're going to do the same thing the Patriots did. They took a hiatus. They'll be back again for another four Super Bowls.
All right.
Be good, buddy. Have a wonderful holiday. We love you, buddy.
JD,
we love you.
JD, as long as they don't keep showing Taylor Swift, I'm good.
Listen, Bob, listen, really quick, Bob, quickly. I want to give a shout out to Antonio's Pizza in West Pittston. They're great. They're legends. They've been here forever since I was a little boy. Antonio's, we love you in West Pittston.
All right, man. Let's let Adam Sandler finish it out here. Guys, great to be with you on a Monday. Tough news coming into it. Happy Hanukkah to all our Jewish friends. God willing, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning. But with our guy, Adam, finishing it up, I'll gavel to close this meeting of the Club for Common Sense. Have a great afternoon.